Monopoly Junior, released in 1999. This game you could find available in a cereal box and is of course a kid's version of the classic board game Monopoly. The game starts off with the extremely agile and slightly creepy looking Grandpa Moneybags doing a backflip into a wormhole. I suppose when you have a lot of money you're able to buy the ability to bend the fabric of space. You then select to play against the computer or with friends, and it didn't appear you could pick different looking pieces, which I did find a little bit odd. That's kind of an iconic Monopoly thing, but alright. So I'll be using the blue car, and this is a very nice looking board with animations here and there. It's very nice. And just a quick explanation on how Monopoly works in case you don't know. You and your opponent each start with money. You roll the die to move around the board. If you or your opponent land on a property, but in the case of Monopoly Junior they're called booths, you or your opponent can buy it. If you land on the opposing player's booth, you have to pay them, or vice versa if your opponent lands on yours. So you buy up as many booths as you can and try to force your opponent to run out of money to win. There are these chance cards available that can send you to other areas of the board or give you free booths. So you just go around the board and buy booths, basically. You get nice animated cutscenes when landing on spaces. Here's a silly arcade animation. But there's also a whack of optional minigames to kill some time and add some variety. These don't have any impact on the game, but it's a nice addition. A roller coaster game where you try to get the carts to drop at the right height and take a photo of Grandpa Moneybags' niece and nephew Sandy and Andy. The haunted house game has you catching ghosts with a vacuum cleaner. This has multiple levels and gets progressively harder and is actually fun to play. I actually like this one, pretty cool. The water slide has you catching rubber duckies in a fishnet. It starts off fairly simple, then debris is added to the mix. Then these crazy piranha things are added which can bite a hole in your net and take away valuable rubber ducky catching time. What the heck was that? The helicopter ride has you grabbing money off boats. As you progress, speedboats start to appear that sink the money ships. I'm not sure how they do that, but okay. The mini golf game will have you putting at a rotating platform with holes. It starts to speed up, making it more difficult, and some of the holes eventually open and close, adding to the challenge. Bumper Cars has you trying to pop balloons in a certain amount of time. Sandy and Andy start throwing garbage at you to slow you down, and they eventually duel you in the arena itself. The Ferris wheel is a puzzle pipe type game, and I'm not sure why the Ferris wheel has a sewage drain attached to it, but I do suppose accidents happen when you're on these things. The merry-go-round game has you trying to get Sandy off it by walking through some very fast-moving porcelain animals. I would imagine this is quite dangerous and should not be attempted in real life. As my game of Monopoly Junior progressed, I eventually took the upper hand. I got control of 10 of the 16 booth areas. I also had control of the loop-de-loop and the Ferris wheel, the equivalent of Boardwalk and Park Place, the most valuable places in the game. And it was pretty much in the bag for the longest time, but it took forever to play out. Money kept going back and forth between us throughout the game, and me and my opponent would keep rolling past the places we needed to buy, so it was this super long stalemate. So while this was all happening, I generally kind of thought of board games. You roll the dice in a board game. A number comes up. You move the player that number of spaces. And that's pretty much it to a board game, isn't it? The game pretty much plays itself out. All you're really doing is moving the piece to the instructed point. You're not really playing, you're just following instructions. Now, Monopoly does give you the option to buy or not buy a property or booth, so it's not completely void of your decision making, but it is kind of funny when you think about board games in general. The game is pretty much playing itself. You're just rolling the dice for it and moving the pieces for it. As far as this as a PC game goes, the Ghost House and the Rubber Ducky game were okay. The main game itself, maybe play it with some friends and you might find something to enjoy here. But if you do play it, just remember that it's probably going to take an hour or two. So there you have it, Monopoly Junior. Thanks for watching.
Pay $3 to take the tramway to lunch.